Good evening. It is Tuesday, December 17th, 2019 at 7 o'clock p.m. I'd like to call to order the Town of Sutton Select Board meeting. If you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next up is public forum. Public forum is limited to 5 minutes per topic. Discussions or comments about town employees or agency members shall be avoided so as not to violate individuals' rights. Is there anyone here for public forum? Seeing no one. Next up is minutes from our December 3rd meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes from our December 3rd, 2019 meeting as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Next up is a public hearing to reaffirm the tax factor. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize you'll open the public hearing in a minute, but this is a unique circumstance. We actually have to reaffirm the tax factor that the board voted on, I think, in the October timeframe. DOR has changed the rules requiring that new growth be certified prior to setting the tax factor. That's a new rule. They haven't done that in the past. In the past, we have had an estimate written right on the paper. This is an estimate of new growth. And the board set the tax factor and we were fine. This year, for whatever reason, they've changed that policy. They're requiring that new growth be certified prior to setting the tax factor. So now we have to go through this exercise once again. It's kind of a problem. You know, obviously we need to get the tax bills out. Kelly and Ryan's ready to go. Everybody is ready to go, but the board officially needs to set the new tax factor or revote the existing tax factor for all this to take place. I apologize. Next year, obviously, we heard DOR and new growth will be certified prior to setting the tax factor, so
Okay.
my apologies.
No problem. Thank you. So at this point, I will declare the public hearing open and ask the clerk to read the notice into the record.
Of course. Public notice advertised Monday, December 9th, Worcester Telegram and Gazette. Town of Sutton, public notice, tax revised classification hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 56, as amended, the Board of Selectmen will hold a revised public hearing on Tuesday, December 17th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room of the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road in Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this meeting is to determine the percentage of the tax burden to be borne by each class of property for fiscal 2020. The Sutton Board of Assessors will be in attendance at the hearing to provide information and data relevant to making such a determination and the fiscal effect of the available alternatives. All Sutton taxpayers are invited to attend the hearing and present their comments and views orally or in writing.
Thank you. Nick and Ray, I don't know if you have anything to add here.
Again, thank you for coming out on not such a nice night to take care of this particular thing. As I said in my letter to you, that this has been a different year, a difficult year for us. And there has been a number of changes, as Jim has said, in the DOR, in the way they're doing things, more and more electronically. Tonight, after you make your decision, you will be asked to sign a piece of paper, and then we will send that into the DOR. This is the last time you will do that. You will all have to get on the DOR website and do it electronically next year. Another thing that we have to deal with is that, unlike all the other towns around us, we have 2 water districts that we have to calculate the tax rate and do all the things that we do for the town. So that has made things a little bit more complicated. And additionally, today we have got additional information that next year the Department of Revenue will not create values for our personal property 504 accounts, which are public utilities. Mass Electric, New England Power, N-Star Gas, and Whitensville Water Company. The town of Sutton will have to come up with values for that and be responsible for those solely, not the Department of Revenue. So that's things that we have yet to look forward to. Again, there's been some changes in the tax rate and the values. I had given you sheets showing you the calculations, that the little spreadsheet that I use on that. In short, there's some minor changes. The residential value, after a public hearing and other changes, just went down about $27,000. The maximum amount of levy increased by $65,000. That was about $65,000. That was due to additional new growth that the Department of Revenue approved. Joyce has noted that other towns have had a lot of difficulty getting their new growth approved, and had to provide additional data and all kinds of information, perhaps because we were so late, that went through, and there was a little bit more money for the town there. The end result was an increase in the tax rate by 4 cents, and that the excess levy capacity, that's the amount of money that we can't raise because of fractions of a penny, is now $11,856.64, a little bit more than it was before. Those items are on the sheet, and you need to sign that. Also, I had given you last year's, at the last hearing that we had, you asked for a comparison from last year to this year, and I gave you a sheet showing my calculation spreadsheet from last year and the one from this year that goes into it. There's a lot of things that go into the calculation of the tax rate, it's just more and more complicated every year. Apologize for having to come back here again. As Jim said, we hope to do this a lot earlier next year with all the different things that we have to do.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Go ahead.
Yep, just briefly, Mr. Chairman. Nick, RJ, thank you for coming up, and thank you for your hard work, as well as thank you to Joyce. I only have one simple question for you. Last time you had mentioned, Nick, when you came before us, that with this new tax rate, that approximately 1/3 of residents would see a slight tax decrease. With these adjusted numbers, is that still going to remain true?
Yes.
Perfect. That's the only question I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. John?
No, I have no further questions. He explained all the different changes, so I'm happy with that.
Sure. Jeff?
No, I looked through the calculations, I understand it, and it didn't change significantly from last time, so I think my comments from last time still apply.
That's the beauty of this. It's all fresh in our minds at this point, so. Just on a personal note, I had asked some questions last time, and I want to just say thank you for following up via email to try to, I think what I said to you is I think I asked you to give a simple answer to a complex question, which is not so easy to do, but. And then you mentioned that the valuation went down by, I think, $27,000,
Yes.
as opposed to a $1.3 billion overall valuation. So it's a tiny little fraction of the whole thing. So, and so just as a reminder for the public, the purpose of this public hearing is for us to vote on the tax rate, generally the split. So we'll need to do that. But while we're here, is there anyone from the public that wants to speak on this matter? Don't hear anything. Any further discussion from the group? Then we need to do a vote to come out of the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0 to come out of the public hearing. Now we're ready for you.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to reaffirm the single tax rate for fiscal year 2020 as approved at the November 5th, 2019 Select Board meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Thanks, guys. We do appreciate you coming back.
Just as a last little note here, I'd like to thank Tim Harrison for his help in struggling with the Department of Revenue and handling a portion of the water districts. He has been very helpful in trying to get the Manchog Water District in line with this. There's virtually all new people in the district, and he has been very helpful in getting their part of this tax rate done.
Awesome.
We have to do all three, the town, the Wilkinsonville Water District, and the Manchog Water District, all at the same time, so they all show up at the same tax billing and goes into our accounting system all at the same time.
Wow.
I'll leave this sheet, and you can sign that afterwards.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, that's all done at the same time we were doing a 5-year reval
Sure.
and a 9-year reclassification of properties,
Yeah.
so.
Big
it's a
year.
busy year.
For sure. Thank you, guys. All right, next up is ZBA fee increase. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick DeShane is here, he's chairman of the zoning board. The zoning board, last time they raised fees was over 20 years ago. They did a comparison of surrounding towns as well as the city of Worcester and found that their rates were well below what everybody else was charging. And the idea is to just not make money, but to offset some of our costs that go into dealing with zoning board actions. So, Rick, do you want to take it from there?
Rick, just for the record, can you just give us name and address?
Sure can. Rick DeShane, 119 Leland Hill Road.
Thank you.
And I am chairman of the zoning board. And Jim kind of summed it up. We're just not trying to generate money, but we're just trying to cover the town's costs on the applications that we get. So, as he said, we reviewed other area towns and just kind of blended ours in to kind of meet. And so that's what we're presenting to you this evening.
Do you want to?
There's, yeah, I mean, there's several things. One of the bigger things for the abutters would be the mailing fee. So we like to mail that out and get certified mail from all the abutters. So that's a cost. We raised that a little bit to cover what the mailings will be. And that's something each applicant is different, obviously, by, you know, whoever you have for abutters that need to be notified.
Just a quick comment. That doesn't seem like a big thing going from 7 to 8, but you're saying because there could be a lot of abutters, it might be, okay.
Right. Once again, just trying to really cover the cost
Yep.
of what it's costing the town.
Sure. Any other significant ones you want to highlight?
I guess the comprehensive permits, as you're aware, the zoning board handles any 40B type projects that come. So we structured that along the lines of the planning board's fee schedule as well, left it a little bit below. We have some, the automatic refill clause on some of the inspection fees and things like that. So that's really the biggest thing that I don't think was really addressed in our earlier fee schedule.
Okay. And 20 years in between rate hikes, so
Little overdue, I would.
maybe. Jesse, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Good evening, Rick. Thanks for coming
evening.
before us.
Thank you.
I just have two relatively simple questions. The first was, were we operating a deficit previously, based on the existing schedules before the change?
Kind of tough to nail down. We assumed so. Once again, the mailings were close to covering the cost. Those had been increased, I think at the 20-year mark. But other than that, I think it's more Lynn's time and, you know, just some funds for all the miscellaneous paper printing and stuff like
Just
that.
the odds and
So,
ends.
you know, I would say, yes, it was probably costing the town a little bit, but, you know, indirectly. But that's what these are trying to just, once again, not trying to generate revenue, just trying to.
Yeah, offset, I think that's definitely fair, and I would think that anyone who would come before you would have that reasonable expectation. The other question that I have is that you'd mentioned that you'd looked at surrounding towns, and included in the list is Worcester, so I'm gonna exclude them because
Right.
they're kind of like an apple to our orange. But in terms of like Douglas, Northbridge, you know, towns that really around us, how off were we? Significantly? Or enough that it was noticeable.
Yeah, enough that it's noticeable. Everybody's structured a little differently. Some people have like a base fee and so it's a little, I have a spreadsheet, if you wanna take a quick look at.
Sure.
That kinda shows what the other towns did. I only have one copy if you're interested in it, pass around, but. So it's a little tough to nail down it precisely, cause everyone has a little different setup, but. Yeah, everybody charged more because they have like a basic fee. So all the other towns seem to be charging more than what we were.
Well, in light of that, I definitely support the changes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Sean?
Thank you. Thank you, Rick, for taking the time to come before us and kind of talk about the changes. So one of the questions I have kind of in line is, for the average kind of applicant who comes before you, like, what is the increase typically for them, do you think will be like, I know it's kind of tough, but I mean.
Yeah. I'll have to look.
Do you want this back?
I think Lynn had it on here. What's a commercial? So, on an average application having 25 abutters, the new fee would be $230. So 25 abutters at $7 would take out a big chunk of that, but,
So what was
so
the
I'm not
previous
sure what
fee?
the,
I mean, so
yeah, I'm not,
7 times 25 would be
is that the,
150, so it went up $75 for
right.
the.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, the exact, what the fee was prior.
That's not a, doesn't seem like a
Well,
hugely
you-
significant amount for an application.
In Lynn's letter, it does say that it was 7, and it went up to 8, so.
Yeah,
Just
that's
for the
just the
abutters,
mailing.
yeah.
That's the mailing.
So that's $25 on that.
There's a $30 fee on top of that.
Yeah, $30 fee on top of that.
So you're saying 20, on average, 25 abutters, $30 on top of that,
That gets you at 230.
yeah.
There you go.
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, I can definitely support it.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the administration fee, that's a new fee, or is that an increased fee?
I believe that's a new fee.
That that seems.
Yeah, I
And
believe it
and
is.
It seems like that's a reasonable fee for someone's time to do what they need to do. I think the mailing cost from $7 to $8 after 12 years, 13 years is not,
20.
certainly not excessive, so I don't see any problem with the new fee schedule.
Yeah. You know, I'm in the same place. I think the idea that we don't want to be fee crazy, but I don't have the sense that we're doing that. This is really about moving us in line with where other neighboring towns are, and the idea is just to sort of offset some costs. So I think that's perfectly reasonable, and you know, if anything, overdue, I would say at this point. So I think good for you guys to get kind of caught up.
Good
So,
catch on Lynn's part.
yeah. Yeah, I know, you know, nobody really likes to do this kind of thing, but time to time it has to happen, so. All right, if there are no other questions, then I think we can have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the zoning board of appeals fee increases as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion in a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is an associate member to the ZBA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kyle Bergeson submitted a volunteer action form for potential appointment to the zoning board. I believe the zoning board met and endorsed his appointment. He is currently on the planning board, and is willing to serve on the zoning board as well. It's allowed under town charter according to our town clerk. We have maybe shortly an additional somebody on the zoning board interested in serving on the Conservation Commission. So now that we have all these associate seats, we might get that situation coming forward, where members serve on two separate boards.
Yeah, okay.
The only exemption is obviously the Board of Selectmen needs town meeting approval to serve on another board or
Yeah.
committee. And the Finance Committee is not allowed to serve on any other board than the Finance Committee.
Okay. Jesse?
I don't really have any issue with Kyle's application.
Jonathan?
The only question I have is, in a way, the Board of the Planning Board kind of sets the bylaws, and the ZBA kind of takes exceptions and tries, takes a look at if there's different conflicts within it. So that's the only question I have, is it's kind of two different functions, and could there potentially be kind of a conflict of interest in that?
I don't know of one, and I don't think.
I don't picture
Yeah.
Kyle doing that, but I'm just saying.
No,
overall.
but, right now, the town charter and bylaws do not exempt it.
Okay. I think Kyle's a great candidate, and he's very enthusiastic and does a great job on the planning board, so I wouldn't expect any less from him on the CBA.
Thanks.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also think Kyle's a great choice for this, or a great candidate for this position. And I applaud his enthusiasm and his interest in town affairs, and especially at his age, it's really nice to see. So,
Yeah.
Fully in favor of this.
Yeah, I guess I would echo that same thing. He's been extremely active around town, not only amongst boards, but with the Lions Club and just everywhere he goes. He's been very active, so he's a good guy to have around. So hopefully he'll serve you well. I'm sure he will. All right then, I think we have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request of Kyle Burgess to be appointed to the ZBA as an associate member.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thanks for coming out tonight, especially with this weather. Okay, moving right along, we have a town manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few updates for the board. Mailbox policy. Matt Stencil has been accumulating mailbox policies from surrounding towns. We're in the process of putting together a policy for the board to consider at a future meeting, probably in January. Most mailboxes are within the town's right-of-way. And we are looking to reimburse one mailbox up to a certain amount per year. All surrounding towns have a mailbox policy, we're the one town that doesn't have a policy. During the last significant storm, the 2-day storm that we had, where we had significant snow, we had 7 mailboxes knocked down. Now, those 7 mailboxes, the plow didn't hit them. The weight of the snow knocked them down. Hopefully the policy will help address that. Some of these mailboxes were, let's say, old, and, but we are taking care of them. We're either putting them back up as soon as the opportunity arises to do that, and doing our best to make everybody happy. I believe it's important for us to have a mailbox policy similar to every other community that sets the guidelines for the town of Sutton. So we are looking at other policies. Right now, we're looking at roughly $60 per reimbursement. That's sort of on the high end. One town offers no cost, that they will not pay money to reimburse anybody who loses a mailbox. Some towns pay $30. We're looking right now in the $50 to $60 area. So a number of different steps that we need to take, but just to let the board know that we are considering this and looking forward to that. Firefighter Wellness Initiative, Fire Chief Matt Balsito came up and presented this initiative through Harrington Hospital. I am looking to appropriate $5,000 in this year's budget to have a few firefighters, mainly the full-time duty crew people, attend this the hospital to have these tests done. And it's specific for firefighters. I don't really know what some of these calcium scoring is, but according to Matt Balsito, a lot of this is a result of tests that establish a baseline of an individual's health, of where they start at. They are subjected to a lot of smoke, toxic chemicals, and other hazards as they enter fires repeatedly. And this will establish a baseline of their health and maybe some support on the hospital side for these firefighters, and thoughts on how they can improve their situation. It is rather expensive for each individual to attend this. It's approximately $800, so we're looking to have 4 or 5 individuals do it. I'm doing this sort of as a trial to see how it goes and the feedback that I get from these firefighters. If it goes well, then I will look to fund this in future annual budgets. But I want to just test it out and get the feedback from the people I'm sending to this this effort. So. Communication about the switch to an electric supply. Doreen DeFazio worked with Peregrine Energy to send out a notice to all Sutton Power Choice aggregation participants regarding the change from Agera to Constellation New Energy. We try to make it seamless. I believe it has been seamless. There has been a lack of communication on, at the upper level between Peregrine, Agera, and Constellation. We've been doing a lot of answering of calls from residents that are concerned about this, but we just told them everything's going to be the same. It's just they're going to be a different provider listed on your second page of your electric bill. That's the only change. The rate stays the same. So a great effort by Peregrine and Bay State Consulting to ensure that that was the case, because it could have been a lot worse. We could be on the basic rate of National Grid right now, and so I give them a lot of credit. Donation of war canoe to Goddard Lodge. I believe we've already accepted this from Ellen Carlson. It was a 1929 war canoe that was part of the Campfire Girls program for 30 plus years, beginning in the early 1930s. The canoe is restored. Its value is just under $5,000, but it looks beautiful. Right now it can be, it is lake worthy, but right now we're going to just preserve it. We're going to hang it through the rafters at Goddard Lodge. This Ellen Carlson felt good about that and was willing to let the canoe go, and it is meticulously preserved and restored. So I'd like to thank her. And ultimately, the Board of Selectmen I'll draft a letter for the board to sign, accepting the donation and thanking her for her efforts. Fire department grant. The fire department was recently notified that the town of Sutton was one of 75 towns to receive a washer extractor grant. This will allow departments to wash their essentially their turnout gear after responding to a fire situation. This washer extractor removes all the toxic chemicals and everything else. As a result, it's a perfect piece of equipment. Millbury actually has a dryer, so in those situations, we may bring the turnout gear to Millbury to be dried. Matt's got a great relationship with the Millbury Fire Chief, but I figured I'd let the board know. Retirement of Glenn King. Glenn King retired after 19 years working for the Sutton Highway Department. Glenn was a valuable employee and was always available to serve the town. Glenn's retirement, along with Chico Maynard's retirement a couple years ago, has left the Highway Department with big shoes to fill. Both of them will be missed. Chico Maynard is already missed, but these guys had tremendous work ethic. I remember one situation where Glenn was dealing with the situation and he put a screwdriver through his hand and bloodied all up, went to the hospital, and he came back that afternoon, snowstorm going on, with a bandage on his hand and continued working. That's just the type of people they are, and they will be missed, and I wish them well in retirement. Also, the Christmas and New Year's schedule, Town Hall will close on Tuesday, December 24th, and reopen Thursday, December 26th, and on December 31st, New Year's Eve, Town Hall will close at 12 noon. The transfer station has a similar schedule. It will close at 12 noon prior to both holidays. And once again, I want to thank the board that was able to attend the Christmas luncheon this afternoon. It was a nice event, great food from Brickstone's Kitchen, and everybody was happy and full when it was all said and done. So
Still are.
thank you. That's all I
Thank you.
have.
Thank you, Jim. Jesse?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, wonderful update, as always. Lots of good stuff tonight. I agree with the, your decision to put forth a policy for the highway, for the mailboxes. Although, again, I'm not sure if $60, I think that might be a little too high. That's me.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll I won't make a policy that puts us out of the area,
Okay.
out of the range, but I have to look at all the policies.
And of course, hopefully there'll be some type of inspection component to it, because to your point earlier, if something is old and rotten and just kind of swaying in the breeze already, and you kind of get that little push from the plow, that might not necessarily be fair, so to speak, to the other taxpayers, but I have full confidence that you'll draft something that's fitting. Yep. Next up, I'd like to thank Chief Belcito and the duty crew for their willingness to be tested. I mean, after all, they spend their whole entire careers keeping our community safe. I think it's only fitting that we do the same for them. And I'd also like to thank you for supporting this initiative. And hopefully they all come back with good scores, as it were. I'd also like to thank Doreen. She's always working hard on our behalf. And again, she's just a rock star with our whole Sutton Power Choice program. So the fact that it was a fluid transition from one delivery service to another, I think it speaks volumes to the effort that she put into it.
No question.
Thank you for the war canoe. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be exciting. The grant for the turnout gear wash. I'd also like to thank Chief Belcito, because I know the state just doesn't give grants out. So I'm sure that he, as well as the duty crew, put time and effort into applying for the grant and following up on it. So as usual, Chief is looking out for us in our budget as well. So thank you, and hopefully it will add to the shelf life of the turnout gear.
Right.
And last but not least, my good friend Glenn King. Of course, we have to thank him for his dedicated service to the town. He is truly one in a million, and I'm sure people around town, they're not gonna not see Glenn anymore, but they'll definitely miss seeing him. So, Glenn, thank you for your hard work, and we'll see you soon, bud. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim, thanks for the report. I think the question I have around the mailboxes, I agree, $60 seems a little bit high. In the wintertime, how do we deal with that? I mean, the ground's frozen often.
Well, I believe Matt right now, after the storm, the snow knocked down 7 mailboxes, there was a thawing freeze in between that storm and what we're experiencing today. But I think during that period of time, they went out and tried to put the mailboxes back upright and kind of set them in the soil. But it's difficult to make any permanent fixes in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
You know, our ground in January and February is hardened. You won't be able to puncture it. So a lot of times you'll see mailboxes in a pail, a 5-gallon pail with sand, and just as something that the post office can deliver mail in. A temporary fix to eventually in the spring we end up going around and replacing the mailboxes.
That was my next question. Do we go back and
We
replace
do.
them permanently?
Right now we do. You know, hopefully with this policy, that's a lot of this is cleared up, and the highway department has clear direction on what we expect from them, as well as the residents once the board adopts a policy.
Do we get a large number of people that come and ask us, to cover the replacement cost? I mean,
I wouldn't say a large.
I know for me, if it happened to me, like, I wouldn't even think about coming.
Yeah.
I just think it's part of the
you
cost.
do.
of
You
having
have
a
some
mailbox.
people that are handy,
Yep.
and it's a mailbox. You get a piece of pressure treated, and you attach a mailbox to it, and push it in the ground, and you're good. But there are some people that are not handy,
Yeah.
and they do need some help. We will compensate them to some extent, but we won't do the work for them. We won't be working on mailboxes in the springtime,
Yeah.
hopefully.
So will it be, I guess so. I think it should, from my estimation, you're probably already covering this, but is it probably, it's not gonna be six or whatever number you settle on, it's not gonna be, it could vary. It could be like $10 if it's just a quick fix, or it could be the full amount depending on.
Yeah,
the
I don't know that
complexity
it'll
of
be a range of pricing. It'll probably be a lump sum,
Yeah.
and we'll all have to discuss that and agree upon that. I've had individuals come in looking for $250 because their mailbox was, a piece of art, and legitimate. The original pictures showed that it was really, a great mailbox. But right now we're just about functionality. So some place that the post office can open the slot and deliver it.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yep, all set. Thanks.
Jeff?
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things. Thank you, Jim. The mailbox policy, I won't belabor that, but the only question I
I'm
have.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
That was just that one topic. I'm like losing
Okay.
it. So I can finish and then,
Go for
sorry
it.
about that.
The mailbox threw you off.
Threw me off. I'm just like, what? So absolutely support the firefighter wellness initiative. I think it's something we should be doing. We're putting them in harm's way, and we should definitely be getting a baseline for their health and kind of seeing how that impacts. And there's all kinds of studies. I see a lot of it on the news around, especially today with the toxic chemicals and a lot of the houses, on our houses, and the fire retardants and all that kind of stuff. It really caused some real big issues for a lot of firefighters. So I think this is a great thing for us to be doing. And hopefully, if it's worth it, to continue to expand it. Because even, the call firefighters, deserve their health as well. So I think that makes sense. Happy to see that it was a very good switch over from Agera to Constellation. I got the letter in the mail myself. Was happy to see that we were not going to be getting the standard National Grid rate, because it would have been a significant increase.
That's true.
So I was very happy to see that. Would like to thank Ellen Carson for donating the canoe and, being restored, and the beauty that will bring to the lodge. I just very appreciative of her, spending that kind of money to get it restored and then give it back to the town. Again, on the firefighter grant around the washer. So I think that's great, absolutely. Kind of back to the same topic as earlier, a lot of the toxic chemicals in fires today. One question I have is it possible to eventually go for a grant for the dryer? Because it seems kind of...
Yeah, we'll have to see how often it is used, and what the method of drying the turnout gear is. very rarely do we get called to a fire and then have to go out again anytime soon. But, the fact is, we are looking into potentially buying one out of the capital plan. So we'll take one step at a time. Millbury has a dryer. We can bring all our turnout gear that is affected by the fire to them to dry it. But yeah, if this is a good piece of equipment and it's used, then we will find a way to dry those clothes.
Okay, good.
And I should say, if Matt Belcito was here, he would want to thank Jeff Briggs, because I believe he was very involved in applying for this grant and doing the legwork to get this money. So
And the grant covers the full cost of the washer?
it does.
Great. Also, just again, like to echo sentiments around Glenn King. He's a fixture in the town. Many times I've been out in my yard, seen him drive by. And, just great service to the town for 19 years, and, he'll be missed. But again, we'll still see him around town, and just really grateful for his service.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Jeff?
Sorry, Jeff. I'm done for real now.
Yeah.
I was just
I'm sure he
thrilled.
believes you.
I just had a very quick question on the mailbox policy. Are you looking at a policy that is a strict reimbursement versus we're gonna continue to help or fix or?
I'm trying to get away from the highway department going around and fixing mailboxes. I would say probably most of them are within the right of way. While they are working on private property, so to speak, on an individual's personal mailbox, they've been willing to do it, and they do a nice job. They get it done. I would rather get them out of the mailbox repair business and just give a lump sum to the people where it's proven, and we'll go out and identify that it was hit by the snow and take pictures where necessary. But the highway, the small crew that we have, the 6 individuals, the laborers, they're too busy to be fixing mailboxes in the spring when there's a lot of other work to be done.
That's all I had on that. Thank you to Ellen Carlson.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you to her. That's, I'd be very interested in seeing that. When the valuation is $5,000, I mean, it must be a pretty nice piece of work, so.
Oh, yeah, it is
Have you seen
a
it?
massive canoe. I have, yeah.
Nice. The firefighter wellness initiative, I'm completely in favor of that. Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that you don't think about with public safety. The people involved in public safety and the risks that they take on without complaining, and so for sure we should do that. And that's just for a select number of people right now, on a test basis this year, or are we?
Yeah, it's roughly $800 per full write-up of all their, they go through a bunch of different tests.
Is it an ongoing kind of thing where it's measured after X number of years, or?
I don't know what the follow-up is. I do know that right now I'm figuring we will send the duty crew plus the chief and maybe one call individual to this, just to kind of get feedback. That's what I'm interested in. I don't want to commit a lot of resources, something that I'm not sure about, until I get the feedback and everybody either loves it or hates it. And then we can find another avenue for them to get this kind of treatment.
And the same thing with the grant. That's not a matching grant. That's a
No.
straight up
It's a
grant.
straight grant, yeah.
Perfect. Let's see. So I don't never really met Glenn King personally, but I've heard about him, and everything I've heard is he's the man. So, congratulations to him on his retirement, and I wish him the best, and I wish I had gotten to know him, while I was here. Thank you for the, Christmas luncheon today.
Yeah.
And Debbie, all you've done there too. That was great.
You folks paid for it. I took it out of your budget, so thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, I hate to just keep harping on this mailbox thing, but it says one mailbox per year.
Yes.
So, you know, if you replace my mailbox this year and it falls down again, then maybe I can get it replaced again next year.
Find another way.
So, you know, coincidentally, my mailbox was at the end of its service life a couple of years ago, and I had to replace it. But I've just had this feeling that you sort of know that the danger that your mailbox is in all the time, and you build it, and it's kind of sturdy, and
You're waiting for the town to hit it, aren't you?
He's moving a little bit closer to the road.
you know, actually, I know the guy that delivers my mail, so he's out checking to make sure I've met all the criteria to have it in the right place. So, but you know, we have a lot of snowstorms, and a lot of snow gets thrown at them. But if you build them fairly sturdy, they sort of hold up.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. With the firefighter wellness initiative, is that a kind of a new program that Harrington has? Are they trying to build, are they doing a study of some kind and it's part of that, or is this just a service that they've begun to provide?
You know, this is the first I've heard of it, so I believe it is a new program. The chief attended a conference or a workshop maybe a week and a half ago, and you know, some other departments were, you know, working with Harrington on this, and the chief brought it to my attention, and
Yeah.
I said, you know, let's give it a shot and let's try it out
Yeah.
and see how it is.
Right.
So I give credit to Harrington Hospital. They're addressing a need out there.
Yeah,
And a lot of the departments that Matt spoke to spoke highly of the experience. So I'm thinking it'll go well.
Yeah.
But wait and see.
yeah, I guess I was just reading it, curious if that was like, if they're building some underlying like database of information, and it's sort of contributing to that at the same time that we're getting baseline information for our individuals, but.
They may be.
Yeah.
I just haven't looked into it that deeply.
Okay. Yeah, in the war canoe, I am also appreciative for Ellen Carlson to have provided that to us. I think I haven't seen it, but I just imagine that the way that it would sort of add to the ambiance of the lodge itself would be perfect. And I'm pretty interested to find out what a war canoe looks like. That
Yeah, you know.
wouldn't have been what I
yeah,
thought of as a
it's
war
long
implement.
story, and I should leave it to Jen Hager to explain the whole thing,
that'd
so
be
I think I
perfect.
will. But it is from the 1930s, and her parents had it initially.
Yeah.
How they got it, I don't really know the full story, but it had been in her father's garage for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's been there for 60 years, give or take, and you know, significant renovation of the canoe has taken
Yeah.
place, and right now it's beautiful.
Yeah, sounds like a perfect home for it, so
Yeah.
good for everybody. You know, Jesse mentioned that the turnout gear might have a longer life, and my guess is it would be safer to use at the same time, so
Right.
that's kind of a perfect thing. And it's all been said, but congrats to Glenn King and to Chico Maynard, you know, for their service to the town. And as you said, when you got two people within your department that know the town like they did, that is a lot of local knowledge to fill as you have to have somebody else do that work. So, and yeah, thanks again for the luncheon. It's always delicious. It was certainly delicious today, and good to see everybody get together and kind of just hang out and have some fun. So,
Yeah.
and I am still full.
Trying to lift the chair without.
Yeah, I'm gonna save that for home. All right, I think that's all we have, so we'll move on to announcements, roundtable, and business topics.
Yep,
Jesse?
I just have two. First of all, I'd like to thank Highway, the current members, as well as anyone who got called in for today's service. You know, today was not a big storm per se, but it was a long, drawn-out storm, and, you know, I saw the trucks on the road this morning. I saw them on the road before I came here tonight, so thank you to all the guys that are on the road as we speak. Secondly, the food pantry and the senior center was closed today because of the snow, but I did receive a message from Michelle Edelstein that she asked that I just read and share with the community. And it starts off, "Dear Mr. Smith and the board, the food pantry served over 33 families with Thanksgiving meals. We are currently ready to serve 29 families for Christmas. The community has really made this one of the most generous holiday seasons. The volunteers have donated 53 hours to make sure that Sutton families have the basic needs for the holiday season. In total, there are 167 families that currently use the food pantry. We are sincerely grateful for the generosity and the support from the churches and local organizations and our friends that continue to assist us in meeting the needs of these families. We are not providing a list tonight, but we are saying thank you on behalf of all the families that you continue to help make ends meet. We are blessed to be part of such an amazing community. Lots of love, Michelle Edelstein." And lastly, I would like to wish everyone in TV land the very merriest of Christmases, and for those of the Jewish faith, Happy Hanukkah. That's all I have, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Jonathan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to just wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and the holidays and New Year, and looking forward to next year, and just appreciate being on the board.
Excellent. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jesse, thanks for reading that letter. That was, Michelle does great work down there, and the community, the town does great work. I do know at St. Mark's, I think it's the first Sunday of the month, which I think
Correct.
this month was December 1st, so that's a long time before the next first Sunday of the month. So hopefully people in town will continue to remember them.
Well, just
The
as an
seniors.
FYI point, the Sons of the American Legion did a collection at Market 32 on the 9th, the day after Chain of Lights,
Okay,
and they
great.
managed to fill an additional 2 pickup trucks of food that were donated. So
Great,
they're very well stocked down there,
Great.
and she is definitely appreciative.
great. And thanks for all your work on it, too. I have nothing else other than to also wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year.
Excellent, thank you. I wanted to mention Chain of Lights, which was this past, was just this, I guess, weekend before last, so in between our meetings. I worked at Chain of Lights, so I don't get around to see how everything else went. So I don't know, did anybody get any feedback? As far as I could tell that day, it seemed to go pretty well. It's just hard when you're stuck in one location to kind of get a feel for the whole thing. But the people that came through where I was seemed to be enjoying themselves, and what little feedback I got that day seemed to be pretty good. But I don't know, I know you were out of town, but
Yeah, I was up at Whittier Farms. It was a crowd from, for the hour that I was up there. Just getting into the store was probably a 40-minute
Yeah.
wait because the line went, down and around the corner. But
yeah.
it's worth it. The Whittiers did a great job presenting all their food and everything else in the back of their kitchen almost, the store, and it was just a nice day.
Yeah.
It was cool, but it was.
Yeah, all in all, the weather cooperated pretty well, I thought, so that was good. One thing I wanted to mention about the senior center, and I think they've been doing this for a while, and I didn't know about it, and I kind of stumbled onto it this year, literally. I was walking into the bank, and Michelle and Diane were down there decorating a tree at Unibank. So I thought momentarily they just offered a tree decorating service, but they refused to come to my house. But instead what they were doing was a senior giving tree. And so, like maybe you might see at church where, you have things for kids, they had things for seniors, that the people that, could use a little Christmas something. So it might be a little late at this point, but that might be something you want to keep an eye out for if you go down to the Unibank at the Market 32 location. And I don't know if they have any others, but maybe there's still some things there to do. But if not, keep an eye out for it next year. So it was nice to see them down there. So And same to me, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, and Happy New Year. Same to you guys.
If I could,
Yeah, please.
could I make a motion to adjourn?
You could.
Perfect.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. I'm gonna say no.